Alright, so this is going to be a follow-up guide to the video I posted a couple weeks back regarding fire cutting on the hard mode Mimiron encounter. In particular, this is our guild Lookalive's first 25-man hard mode clear of this encounter. Thought it'd be helpful to run through a few of the things that are going on and kind of delve into the reasoning behind what's happening or why we're doing what we're doing, and show it in a complete kill video. So the pull starts same as per usual. We bait the fire in the corner, tank immediately drags the boss to the edge of the room, and we get these mine spawns. Now usually we would drag the mines, or the tank would drag the boss out early here before these mines trigger. This is something that you can do to avoid melee carelessly running into a mine, because they take about like 5 to 8 seconds to actually activate, so you can usually get out pretty early. But we don't, we sit there, melee don't get hit, and the fight proceeds as normal. Now we see Plasma Blast go out, tank just sits there and eats that. We also see all of our melee here get hit with Napalm Strike. This is a very scary situation. It can happen since this is an ability that will target a random range member, but as the tank's cutting the boss, the melee can be considered a range since they're past certain range from the boss. When that happens, using a raid CD like a DSAC is really high value there if you're a healer or even the tank for that matter. But otherwise, things are kind of proceed as normal. Range and healers are staying out of the middle of the room to avoid spreading fire in the center. Again, thinking about phase 2. When we get Shock Blast, we run, and when the tank gets Plasma Blast on them, our tank in this case would pop Paints Up, or our Disc Priest would pop Paints Up on the tank for the first Plasma Blast, and our tank would DP the second. Generally, I would also recommend this order, because this way the tank can also wings on pull, so there's no weird threat shenanigans. You notice that after we killed Flame Leviathan phase 1, we stacked up to bait fires, and now we're just slowly moving as a group to continue to bait those fires. Unfortunately, we got a fire kind of close to the boss because our druid went to B-res our dead Red Pally. But that's fine, we bait and then get to position here. So this is phase 2. We try to spread as best as possible. Our fires aren't great. However, what you're going to see here is we actually get really good RNG with a Frost Bomb, and it gets sent to the back of the room, so we don't need to move a lot. But also, you look at the raid CDs in the top left corner of my screen here, you're going to notice that we're basically chaining raid CDs through the entirety of this phase with Lust. There is tons of raid damage going out, especially if you have poor fire positioning like we had here, where the raid can't spread evenly around the boss. It just put yourself in a bit of a awkward situation. So we DSAC into Divine Him into DSAC. For this frontal, everyone moves, and then raid damage here is much less significant. You just have the fire buffet that's going out every 6 seconds or so. But it's very healable. Once this finishes, however, we continue DSAC chaining. We're running 2 priests here. We have a Disc Priest and a Holy Priest, so they're Divine Hymning. But essentially, if you're a raid lead here, coordinating those, calling them out, we actually get a terrible Frost Bomb here. It's super close to the melee. Everyone has to run to the same side, taking so much damage. And if you're ever in this situation as a non-healer, try to help your healers out. Press Hellstone, use any defensives you have. You won't be taking nearly as much damage, or you will never take as much damage the rest of the fight. So, all defensives here, super good. Anyways, phase ends. And something you're going to notice here is that we have Warlocks dropping Hellstones. Super good value during this downtime. We also had it in the past phase. With the transition between phase 3 and phase 4, you generally don't have enough time to drop them, so wouldn't stress too much about that. But we bait fires again. We have our druids with B-res is still left to go pick up a couple of our dead, and we proceed to phase 3. For phase 3 here, fire spreading all the time because the firebots do a pretty great job of clearing fire, which I mean is great because there's room to go, but you always have fire chasing you. So we kind of just are slowly moving, or the plan was to slowly move clockwise around the room. So you notice we started the phase next to fire, but that kind of took a turn as we got some weird fire stacks, then just start moving towards an open direction. It's fine if you go any which way, just important that you communicate that. For the assault bots, however, the strategy we decided to implement here, because we previously found that we were sort of slowly getting overrun by assault bots when we had range. Just look at the boss. I'm sure this will change as people get more familiar with the fight, better DPS, so on and so forth. But essentially, when assault bots spawned, we would have all of our rogues, all of our hunters use all threat modifiers on a DK that was in Frost Presence and spamming Icy Touch. We would then have another DK use Chains of Ice to keep that mob permanently slowed, so they could never reach their target, nuke them down. I would loot the core and then throw it at Mimiron's head. What's important here is if you are the person looting the core, make sure you do not throw the item that you loot while the boss is moving. Otherwise, there's some weird shenanigans that can go on where the boss outranges the ability, and it can make the fight a bit more difficult to recover from when you miss that 20-second window for melee to hit the boss. But otherwise, this phase is a lot of just rinse and repeat. We're trying to move as a group. The more together we can be, the better. Just allows for our tank, and or in this case, Ire, who's not responsible for the assault bots, but picking up junk bots to keep them off healers. It also allows him to taunt bomb bots as they come down. We had a couple. You can actually manipulate the way bomb bots target people and how they explode by using taunt. Because how they work is they're going to move towards a target, plant, and once they reach there, they're just going to explode. So preferably, as opposed to just letting them run havoc on your raid, they generally won't one-shot people, but again, if they hit like 2 or 3 of the same person, or they hit your mage as they're running through fire, they're not going to live that. So what we had is we'd have our tank, Ire Shield in this case, our hunters with their pets, and our feral druid just go in with a tank and the feral druid would go in bear form, basically just taunt them, eat the bomb bot, and then run out, because they will live that hit. Tanks has tons of HP, so he's living forever, he's fine. Feral druid in bear form will live it, and the hunter pets using growl, their pets have the raid damage modifier, which basically makes the bomb bot damage negligible. So really, I would highly recommend having those assignments to, again, just completely reduce the bomb bot damage going out during that phase. Phase 3 transition happens, we're in phase 4 now. Phase 4 is like pretty pure chaos. A lot of the raid damage is avoidable. The only thing that you can't avoid is the hand pulses that are going out from the middle section of the body. I'm not going to talk about the specific mechanics going on during this phase, but what is important is your movement. To always kind of think about what's around you, where you next want to go, and kind of communicating that with your raid, if you're a tank, or as the raid lead, and then acting on that. So you see here, we had a frost bomb go out, we're having another one go out now, so we're in a clear space. This is good. The frost bomb's behind us, we don't have to move to adapt to it, but we're going to move in the direction of where it explodes, because there's not going to be any fires over there. And so you're just kind of doing this dance during this phase, running out for shock blast when mines are down. Sometimes you can move right away, again, like I talked about at the start of this video. You won't get hit, or they don't activate after a certain period, so you can get out of them soon. I think we do that here. Avoiding the frontal from the middle section, and then avoiding the frost bomb. You can also save less here. We opted to use it at the start of the encounter in phase 2, as we find that's kind of where the big damage check is. And phase 4 is most of the deaths that you'll find in phase 4. It's not actual raid damage, it's people running in fire, people running over mines. Because again, there's a lot going on, it's difficult to coordinate that all, especially if you're progging this encounter or progging this phase for the first time. So just stay relaxed, keep your heads cool, split damage on the different sections of the boss evenly. We had our range focus head, melee focus bottom, both peeled middle accordingly whenever it was needed. Managed to keep that up, and then sure enough, the boss will go down. And that's hard mode Mimiron.